Well guys, we did it. It's finally here, the all-new ammo polishing system. I am so excited. First, I'm going to show you how and why we designed it the way that we did, so it's incredibly precise yet very safe and easy to use. Then I'm going to show you how we prime it and then actually use it on a car. But first, let's go through the all-new lineup one by one. So right off the bat, I wanted to design this system with the ATA 200 in mind, meaning I wanted to design one polish, or what we call one fluid, with two separate pads. We wanted the pads to do the work because the technology in pads nowadays just been absolutely amazing, but we wanted to keep the fluid constant. So that's what's really going on here. So now let's dive into the meat and potatoes. This is the Big Daddy. This is the LHR21, absolutely fantastic machine. Now the history behind this is we are the only, meaning Ammo is the only company right now to be able to have a custom polisher direct from the manufacturer, meaning it wasn't black and then we disassembled it like the red one, had it repainted and then reassembled it. This was actually designed and made within the factory. So big thank you to Rupes Italy and Rupes USA. You can see I was trying to make this like a lightsaber and I think we nailed it. It's absolutely gorgeous. So there's ammo here, Rupes on the side, and then the AMMO. Now, here's something that's really unique. If you look at the backing plate is black. That is the only one that has a black backing plate. Now you can see from the originals are blue. This one's black. So we can actually get these separate as well if you just want to put this on your current machine. Very, very cool, but everything, including all the details, is really thought of. So that is an amazing machine. Okay, now let's talk about exfoliate polishing fluid and why it's so unique. So right off the bat, this is designed to have an extremely long working time. It isn't gonna dry out, and it has the same cut from beginning to end, meaning it doesn't diminish over time. So the backstory goes, the reason we developed it like this was, at ATA 200, Kevin and I were working off camera, and he wanted to give me an example of why the pads these days are so amazing and why they can do so much work. And he took a polish out of his pocket, he squirted it on the pad, and he started working this back and forth.
Rub that in.
And the working time was extremely long. He's like, look, the pad is doing the work. And I said, well, why? What do you have there? And he goes, look, sprayed it on his hand, went like this, and wiped it on his face. It was actually hand lotion he was using as a lubricant. And I said, well, wait a second. What exactly did you use on the paint here?
I used my hand lotion. The point is that if I can do this with a lotion, something that was not designed to do this, and still get that kind of a finish with one liquid and one pad and one machine. Imagine when you learn to master a small system.
If our goal is to increase the working time, but we should probably put some emollients in there, we should probably put some more abrasives in there that don't diminish, we could have the ultimate polish. We could call it the fluid. And then we can have one fluid and two pads. And we said, oh, so after 28 revisions, this is the ultimate iteration of exfoliate polishing, and specifically to work with these pads. Okay, now let's talk about the Waffle Finishing Pad. It's really cool because it's designed to work with exfoliate. Here's why. Exfoliate's designed to have a longer working time. We just talked about that, but you have to have a pad that can handle that. That's why we designed it the way that we did here. See the waffle and the frequency? The frequency is the space between the tops and the bottoms, meaning the peaks and the valley of the pad. We needed to make it such that the pad itself remained cool while you were polishing for longer periods of time. The second thing we wanted to do was chop this off right here. So there's no taper. This is a straight cut, little taper at the top, and then straight down. The reason why is if you have the backing plate that goes right over top of it, you can see that the backing plate goes right down. So this is where all the effective polishing takes place. So when you get it to tight areas, you can get really, really close without having that taper bump into things. Plus, if you take a taper, you can see right here, that is where all the pressure goes down right here, and then this can flop up. And as it's flapping and flipping and flopping as the machine is going around like this, what happens is sometimes you're gonna get swirls, or you can bump into something and burn through. So if you've seen on a video I did with Kevin years ago, he actually goes in and takes a razor blade and cuts it and made it perfectly straight. And I was like, well, why are you doing that?
If you're trying to remove a defect along an edge, tied up against the fender where it meets the hood, somewhere like that, and you wanna get just right up to the edge with the pad and put some pressure down, well, there's no backing plate support for that, so it just squishes, okay? So by eliminating the flare in that situation, now when we do some pressuring, you've got backing plate support. Directly below the backing plate, you're gonna get the most cut from pressure and tilt.
I started working, I'm going, oh my gosh, that totally makes sense. This is the whole R&D, 2-3 years of doing this with Kevin. And why this pad is what it is. You can see on the back, it has a very unique drive and protect, so you know if it's down, you can say, okay, that's the waffle pad. Next, we go into the shear cutting pad. It has wool on top here, and then same thing, straight cut, a little taper there, and then straight all the way down, the same concept as before. We don't want anything flopping over. Now, thinking about this from a holistic perspective, if the car has a few scratches, a few little swirls, nothing major, or it's a brand new car, or you want to put a coating on it right afterwards, you can go right in and just use the foam pad. If you have more scratches and things like, you know what, the paint's a little on the hard side, and I need a little bit more aggressive behavior, you're gonna go in and then use the wool pad. You can also just use this by hand. Let's say you have a brand new car and you're just gonna polish it and you wanna kind of brighten up, bring some depth back. You can put this on a microfiber towel and go at it that way. Speaking of that, we have brand new microfiber towels designed for this entire system. This is a beautiful, what we call a final wipe towel. A very long time it took to develop these, and it's absolutely fantastic to go with all of this. Plus, we have a brand new bag. This bag specifically to carry all of this plus the ammo bottles at the same time. So we had to change a lot of the little compartments in here so that the bottle could fit in, and you can see the ammo logo is put down there. That took almost more time than anything else in here, but we are super excited. Let me show you how to prime it first. That's very critical when you first take it out of the bag, and then the steps that you use, what we call a mow down technique, to really learn how to slowly polish your car and do it safely, but you can do it. That's the exciting part about all this. We wanted to design it so that anybody, whether pro or the first time you pick up a polisher, we want to get people excited about actually protecting their car, shining it up, restoring it, if you will, and then going for a drive. So that's what's going on here. Let's hop into the priming section. Okay, now that we're ready to polish the paint, the first thing we need to do is actually prime the pad. Now, most people think priming the pad, hey, that's a secondary thing, it's not that big of a deal, but it is actually vital to the longevity of the pad, how comfortable you are polishing, and then what we call creating a barrier. We're gonna go over all that right now. But first, you rip the bag open, you pull it out. Here I'm using the waffle pad, but we're gonna repeat the same thing for both the shear pad and the waffle pad. So I like to take it out and then I actually bang it around a little bit. I like to soften it up, but at the same time, when they're manufacturing the pads, they're cutting them out, the 6-inch, the 5-inch, the 3-inch. As they're cutting it, some of the foam, little white foam, you'll see a little powder come out. That's very normal. Or you can take compressed air and just blow it out. Why? Because when you do that, when you put it on the paint for the first time, you actually see some white stuff come out. It doesn't actually damage. The paint doesn't do anything other than just drive me crazy. So that's my first step. Now, the second thing is when we're priming the pad, think of it like a pair of jeans. You go to the store, you buy a brand new set of jeans. They're very stiff and rigid. So what I like to do is put them in the washing machine, then in the dryer. Now, that's a metaphor. We're not gonna do that here and put these in the washer and dryer, but we do wanna soften these up because they're a little bit on the stiff side. Why? Because when we start polishing, it might bounce and hop. Now, at the same time, when we're priming, we want to evenly prime this as well because we don't want any dry spots. Dry spots can cause swirls or haze when we're polishing as well. The third reason is creating a barrier. This is very porous. So we want to fill up the top layer of pores so that when we do put the 1 or 2 or 3 dots on here to then go in and actually start polishing, that polish, that fluid stays between the pad and the paint. It becomes very fluid and it starts to work. It becomes very smooth. So there's a lot going on with priming. So here are the steps. First, apply the pad to your machine. I find it easier to work with it once it's attached. Now, I prefer to apply it with the machine and the pad facing down, then lining up the edge of the backing plate evenly around the pad and then pressing it on. I then can quickly verify the spacing by spinning the backing plate and watching the spacing as it spins. Or you can simply put the machine facing up and align the pad hole with the backing plate hole. It doesn't matter which one, whatever works for you is fine. Next, spread 3 or 4 circles of fluid around the pad and massage it into the pores of the foam. Spend about 30 to 40 seconds making sure every pore is coated with polish. To do this, push or pump the fresh foam so the fluid sinks into the foam itself and prepares it for its eventual use. The goal is to have consistently applied polish to avoid dry spots that will translate to hopping or chattering from an unbalanced pad against the paint, potentially scarring the finish. When priming the wool pad, you're basically repeating the same exact process, but with a subtle change. First, open the bag, tap, rub, or blow out the strands to fluff up the fibers. Then apply a few circles of exfoliate and coat each strand of wool with fluid. Now, because this is a cutting pad, there's less cushioning, so instead of massaging like we did on the foam pad, this time we're spreading or combing it so that every fiber has polish and isn't dry before it touches the paint. Next, with each pad primed, blow out or wipe it with a microfiber towel to start fresh on your first pass with your primed pad. Apply 2 to 4 dime-sized dots on the face of the pad, and now you're ready to start your test panels. Okay, now that we've primed our pads, sort of warming up our tires before we hit the track, now we're gonna do a test panel. The way we work a test panel is to do a single lane pass. Now traditionally, people see, oh, we're gonna go 2x2, crosshatch. Okay, that may be for later on, but right now we don't know what the paint is telling us and what we're gonna do to get it restored. So the first thing you wanna do is put the pad down. We're at about 3.5, between 2 and 3, so we're not really jacking up the machine. We're not really going very fast. And we're gonna do a single lane pass and then come back. That is the trick. It's what we call a modified mow down. Mow down is just to remove the junk that's on top of the car. We have no idea if there's any coating on here, or spray wax, or carnauba, or maybe just the dead skin from years and years of sitting out in the sun. We don't have any idea. So right now we're just trying to figure out what is the paint telling us. So put the pad down, turn it on. Now it's nice and smooth because we primed it. Slow pass to the right, about a foot, and then we're gonna come back. Release the trigger, leave it on the paint, pull it off. Now we go in with our towel and we wipe it off. Now, when we're wiping it off, we're noticing, is it hard to remove? If it's hard to remove, that means a lot of residue is coming off. Is it easy to remove? Okay, not a lot of residue. Then we're looking, did I do anything here? I think it needs a little bit more. So we can go back in. You can either wipe off, kind of remove that residue with a microfiber towel, or if you have compressed air, you can do that as well. Again, wearing a mask. And then I may put one little dot on here again, like this, and come through and do another single lane pass. The goal here is just, this is not how we're gonna do the rest of the car. This is just to figure out, hey, how is this paint reacting right now? Turn the trigger on, we're at about 3.5. Medium downward pressure, not very heavy. At about this speed, 1 foot across, 1 foot back, release the trigger. Again, is it coming off easy? Yep, it's coming off easy. Now, if it was coming off hard, we'd have to decrease the size that we're working, maybe do 6 inch, 8 inches, that kind of thing, or increase the amount of liquid that we have on there because the residue is taking over. There's too much residue coming off, and sort of think of this as a piece of wood sometimes. I think that helps novices understand. When you're sanding a piece of wood, there's sawdust that comes off. Metaphorically speaking, that's what's happening with the paint. When you're polishing, things are coming off. Clear coat or single stage paint is coming off and embedding itself in the pad. We need to understand, hey, how much of that is coming off? What's going on here? This is what a test panel is all about. So I'm wiping it. You know what? I don't see much residue coming off. That's a good thing. And I'm starting to see, yep, it's coming off much better. The paint is looking fantastic. I think I'm gonna do one more pass and then I'll have decided, like that. I think I only need about one. Well, let's do 2 just in case. And I'm gonna do one more pass and then I'll make my prediction. There we go. Okay. So now I've just done my test panel. I realized that 3 passes with the foam pad is getting it to my desired level. It looks absolutely fantastic, and the goal is not to remove too much in that process. This is where you have to spend some time. Now, if you're a professional and you have your own technique and it's 2x2 or however you do your test panels, completely respect that. The goal here is just to get a novice to understand, hey, we're working in a test panel. Now that I have an idea, I see the way that the paint is reacting, I'm gonna stay with the foam pad. Or let's say in another example, it didn't get anything out. There's nothing, the scratches are still there and I want more. Then we're gonna go to the wool pad and we're gonna use the same fluid. So that's where it becomes much easier to manipulate the pad and the fluid against the paint. What is the paint telling us? That's our goal with the test panel. Now that we've set our approach after the test panel of how we're gonna approach the rest of the vehicle, there's 2 things you wanna keep in mind. One, you don't wanna polish the paint until the polish is gone. So always keep that in mind. It should be around 30 seconds, 45 seconds at most, and then you're gonna go in and wipe it off. If it becomes very sticky or it just disappears altogether, you'll know that you've polished too long. Lastly, for the final polish, here's what you wanna do. You're gonna take your compressed air, blow out the pad, or again, use the microfiber towel and wipe off the pad. You're not gonna put any more polish on, so you're gonna go 0 polish. Now that I think that this looks absolutely perfect, we did 3 passes here, it's at my desired level, then I'm gonna go in with no polish. You see, I didn't add anything else. Turn it on and do 1 slow final pass like this. And then I take it off. That's what we call a final polish. And the reason we do that is we're just cleaning up any last little bits of polish that was on there with the pad, and you're just smoothing it out. So that's the last little technique or trick that I like to use, especially for newcomers to polishing. We got to prime the pad, then do our test spot, and then when we're done, we figure out, okay, that's as many passes as I need to do to make it look as good as I want it to make it look. Then we do one final pass without adding any more fluid to it, and it's going to look fantastic when you're done. Well guys, there you have it. This is the AMMO polishing system designed to simplify polishing. More importantly, to make it really comfortable, very, very precise, but most of all, to inspire you to get out there and feel confidence when you're actually polishing your own car. That is the overall mission, and I think we did it here. If you guys have any questions, you know where to find me, Larry at AMMONYC.com. As always, thanks for watching. See you next time.